Geese of Gear, episode number 281 with Rob Hofkamp, OG of audio sales guys, worked for multiple manufacturers. In fact, he tells us on the podcast, almost all British. He spent many years with Martin Audio, with Tannoy, with Void, and he has a big announcement to make on this podcast as well. I think first time publicly announcing, and I'll let him tell you. So please enjoy Rob Hofkamp on Geese of Gear, episode 281. Hello, and thank you for joining me today on Geese of Gear, episode number 281. Today's podcast is brought to you by ACT Entertainment. Check out the new Airton Mobile Manager app, a game changer for lighting professionals. With this app on your iPhone, you can easily adjust fixture settings like address, universe, and network settings, as well as access crucial system info like software version, LED hours, and even error logs. And there's no need for external power or internal batteries in the fixture when you do this. It's fast, convenient, and designed to keep you moving through your prep and stay on top of your rig. Check out the Airton Mobile Manager app today and get a little peek into the future. And today's podcast is also brought to you by GearSource. Founded in 2002 with an ambitious mission to support live event businesses, buy and sell gear globally. Since that time, the company has transacted in more than 100 countries, selling $250 million in sound, lighting, staging, and video gear. GearSource continues to evolve the platform for massive global growth, enabling localized currencies, payments held in escrow to protect buyers and sellers, AI-powered logistics behind a new global logistics brand, and so much more. The company has just released massive new features, including GearSync, with the ability to manage up to 400 listings at once, and NeedZone, an automated shopping assistant for hard-to-find items. So take full control over your gear with a visit to GearSource.com today. So as you hear this, we're probably all on flights to LDI, or at least getting ready to go to LDI. I'm actually really looking forward to it. I guess I missed last year, and that kind of put me in the mood to go to it this year even more so. Looking forward to seeing all of you, and a lot more than all of you. And also really looking forward to this Dining with Dinosaurs thing. And if you haven't heard about it, it's a luncheon that is on December 9th, 12:30 till 2, I believe, and where we're pairing up what we're calling dinosaurs, who are industry legends in sound, lighting, rigging, all kinds of areas, management, production management. And so it's a really wild group of like 14 people. You've probably seen it on socials, or even LDI are advertising it and promoting it now. But anyways, pairing them up at round tables while you eat lunch with a group of people who want to be there. And I think there's already over 100 people booked to come. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's the first time we're doing it, so we're kind of winging it. And I will say that as this goes on, if they want us to come back, which I think they will based on the early success here, we're going to make it bigger and better. So if you know me, you know I don't like to do things halfway. I like to kind of go all out. And so we'll do the same with this Dining with Dinosaurs thing. And so, yeah, I'm grateful. Geese of Gear continues to keep becoming a bigger brand. More people follow our podcast. We love that. I appreciate each and every one of you for listening and caring and giving a damn. And having said that, please keep liking and forwarding and reposting and subscribing to our podcast. It really does help. We're growing. We can continue to grow with your help. Share this podcast, please, if you like it. If you don't like it, then don't tell anyone. Yeah, I appreciate you. And so today's guest, it's been almost 3 years to the day that today's guest, Rob Hofkamp, was brave enough to exhibit at a lighting show post COVID, even though he's a lifelong audio guy. And so, yeah, he's the one. He was on the podcast in 2021 from LDI. We actually recorded while he was there at the show. And he was representing at the time Void Acoustics. And so today he's got actually a pretty cool new announcement to make that I believe is the first time that people are going to hear this. So it's pretty cool. Probably actually by the time you listen to it, it's going to be out in a press release though. So if you want to hear his previous podcast and really dig into, what Rob's done in his life and stuff, check out episode 158, which is audio only. Wherever you get Geezers of Gear. It won't be on YouTube, but it will be on Spotify. It'll be on Apple Podcast and other mediums. And also on our website, geezersofgear.com. Rob has been in the audio industry since the 70s. That's a while. Nearly 20 years as sales director for Tannoy North America, 20 years as director of operations for Martin Audio, and nearly 10 years as director of operations for Void Acoustics. Most recently, Rob has been doing brand development for Ops and Consulting, who specialize in the development of specialist products for the professional audio market sectors in North America. And of course, like me, Rob is Canadian, so he's a damn nice guy. Welcome, Rob Hofkamp, back to Geezers of Gear. Rob, how are you?
I'm getting ready for Thanksgiving. How about you?
But you're in Canada.
I know, but listen, it's a day off for me.
There you go. That's all you got to do is work for like American companies or whatever. And
Oh, you know what it is. The beautiful part. I've always used those Canadian stats well, okay. So the Canadian stat, I'm working it. Like our Thanksgiving, I'm going to be working for sure, right? But
yeah.
on the American Thanksgiving, it's a catch-up day for me,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
right?
That's
You
true.
just
I mean, it
continue.
is for me too, to be perfectly
Yeah,
honest with you,
it's
even though I live in the
you,
United States and
you just clean
celebrate
stuff up,
Thanksgiving.
right?
Yeah.
Just clean it
Well,
up.
I mean, and how much can you eat and how much football can you actually want before you got to grab your laptop and do some work?
Yeah.
So, but the funny thing is, so my company's completely remote. I have people in Canada, people in Europe, people all over the place, people in the US. And so some people take both holidays, mostly my Canadian good buddies take both holidays. So they'll take the American Thanksgiving and the Canadian one. Um, and then some people like myself usually take neither holiday. I'll eat some turkey and then straight back to my desk. So
Well,
yeah,
it's that passion to be busy, Marcel, right? You want to be doing something.
I like it.
Me
I
too.
love what I do still. I love the people I do it with. And I just really, really enjoy working. And I listened to a podcast a couple days ago about this, a very, very successful guy. And he said, you know what? Friends and family come to me all the time and they say, Bob, you're spending way too much time working and you need to take a vacation and go away with your wife and just sit on a beach somewhere and you need to relax and take some downtime. And he's like, you know how afraid that makes me? You know the anxiety I get when you just say that? Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. I really enjoy, yeah, but you need hobbies. What if work is my hobby? What if I just really enjoy work? And, sadly, I know so many people who were convinced to stop working and, died shortly after. So,
So much truth to that. So much truth to that. We're not programmed, built, trained, or whatever to just stop. We're
yeah,
creatures of doing things. And this is I was reading an article about AI recently, and that's a very big topic, right? And
yeah, we'll talk about it.
what what
I
I had
like it.
s- I think it's it's hard for my brain to put it all in place. But one of the comments was the people have been talking and saying, what is the purpose of humans going to be if AI turns us into this where the robots can do everything, where the machine takes control and just takes look after our life? What do we do? And we lose this sense of purpose. and without a purpose, we're kind of just, wandering fish. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
where it will end really, but it's definitely something when you start thinking about it. And I'm with you on this. And work for me has never been a four-letter word.
Yeah.
It's a hobby. It's a passion. It's what I like to do.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed to have married a fantastic woman who allows me to do that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
But
very,
Rob, the
very.
other funny thing about technology is every time we go through one of these massive technological shifts, you hear the same cry, which is basically like we're doomed.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be different and it's going to take over and we're doomed. But guess what? Then we figure it out and
Yeah.
everything's
Well, no,
different. And you
in
know,
my in my mind, it's not like a Y2K thing. It's just a case of I do really understand the purpose. And the classic case is me, right?
yeah,
Last March, I retired, quote
yeah,
unquote. Right? I
yeah.
pulled the big R out of the chute and
Again,
said, bye
again.
bye. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it was,
you're as bad as Kiss.
yeah. I'm not even
How
going
many retirement tours are you going to do?
to,
I think
you
they're
know
on their
what?
seventh or something,
Yeah, I
or
could share
Ozzy.
some
Ozzy's
stories there.
another
Yeah.
one.
Ozzy and Sharon, bless them. No, listen,
Yeah.
I, it was interesting for my last step out. And, we know my past history in the business with Tannoy and Martin and then with Void. And when I ended with Void in March, I took this opportunity to consider some things. And a really good friend of mine and customer in New York City, who I'd known for about 15 years, through a couple of brands actually, and different opportunities for us to do business together,
Yeah.
he asked me to come and help him out in his business as a consultant. So, and look at business development, growth, and things. Right? The company was Global AV Group, a
Yeah.
fantastic integration company in New York City. Jason is actually a world-renowned DJ in the '90s from the proper venues in New York. Came out of the club scene and is one of the most connected guys I know on the planet.
Yeah,
Um, and
he's a cool guy.
but I went to work with him and got into the deep side of the integration aspect of the business. So my whole career has always been on what we'll call the manufacturing side, right?
Yeah.
So selling products to integrators. And getting into the integration side was really interesting because I got to live firsthand the problems that they live, either through delays in delivery. And, the real test was we ended up winning a project there. Jason's company won, it was a fantastic opportunity, great people, right?
Yeah.
And the integration side of it, it was like 1,100 speakers and it took 90. We did it in about, actually, not even 90 days. It was about 70 days. No, actually, more like about 60 days. But great team, worked with the local electrician company there for doing the wire pulling and that 110,000 feet of copper, blah, blah, blah.
Jesus.
Big job, right? Really big
Yeah.
job. And results turned out really well. They're very happy. And Jason's continuing to work there now and things are good. Lots of other projects in that marketplace for them. But
Yeah, I talked to him
originally,
recently. I talked to him recently about all that stuff. He's obviously over the moon with that business because, it's changed his trajectory. It's changed his whole everything,
yeah.
when you get projects that size that continue, it's not just one and done. Like there's follow-on projects and stuff.
Well, and
That can be
too,
life-changing.
stepping into that side of it, you can see where jobs at that scope can really crush an integration
Oh
company
yeah.
because delays lead to what? Lawsuits lead to things, right? You lead to
Yeah.
problems. The
Yeah.
big jobs can kill you. But it went off like a hit. Jason has got some fantastic people working there. The poor CAD guys were redoing drawings because we get into little tricks of the trade and stuff. But
Yeah.
speaker locations that magically couldn't go because of other things. But no, that it was a great time. And originally, I'd only planned on working there for 9 months, and just to because I was going to truly retire. I'm 63 years old, right?
Yeah.
I just turned
That's
63 last week, actually.
that's
So
not so
that's
old anymore.
no, I know. I feel like I'm
I remember
about
when
20.
we were kids, you think 63, it's like, oh my God, they
Yeah,
live that long? Now you're just getting started, you
yeah.
know?
Well, no, and I can't envision myself retiring, Marcel.
Yeah, me
It's not.
neither.
I can't do it, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, it just, we were done with that, and I said, okay, we're good, and because originally we're only going to be together for 9 months, and then I took 3 months off, which is, I made up for all those years I never took a holiday and just spent time with my grandkids and my wife, and thought about what to do, and interviewed with half a dozen companies. When again, I was humbled, honest to goodness, humbled by the fact that people would actually consider hiring me. Um, and
Well,
and
sadly, as you probably know, there's a shortage of really great people, especially at the top of the food chain, like you.
Yeah, I know.
People like you and I are really rare out there right now, especially as time goes on, and we're replaced by younger people and all of that stuff. Like everyone's looking for people like you right
Well,
now.
you see, the
So
thing, Marcel, is too, I think this is part of the COVID hangover, because so many people left and decided, you know what, I'm not going to come back,
yeah.
and didn't come back, just retired early, just went on to something else, just said, I found a new path.
Well,
And
and then to make a perfect storm out of it, everybody got twice as busy at the same time. So they were
yeah,
already busting at the seams, and now they're twice as busy, and they need even more people. So yeah, it's a problem.
yeah. So I think, I should do a drum roll, I guess. Well, I finally decided at the end of October, I made a few trips into the US, and I was over in Europe, and I finally decided that what I want to do is go to work for Tony and Ann at Function One.
Oh
And
wow.
for me, I got a thing for British loudspeakers, right? You can't see anything in my resume that doesn't come from a Union Jack
It's
flag right of
interesting.
America.
That is interesting. Yeah.
But I love the sound. My wife said to me, "Well, what are you going to do if you don't like the way it sounds?" I said, "Well, I'm not going to be involved with them, man. Then am I? Like, it has to sound good." And then I I just love the signature sound of a British speaker. They've got away with bass, they've got away with mid range,
So
and
you
they've
said
got
Tony and Ann, and for people who don't know who they are, it's Function One, right?
yeah, yeah.
So this
Function
is
One.
this is your big coming out announcement right here.
It is.
I
It's
guess by the
official.
time people hear this, it'll be all over social media and stuff probably, but um, that's really cool. So I don't know if you know, but I had Tony on the podcast, I don't know, probably 4 years ago or something, 5 years ago maybe at this point. And they also founded Community, right?
No, Turbo.
No, not
They were the
Community.
founding.
Turbo Sound. Yeah.
You know, there's a really complicated story that I could share in regards to Turbo, and there's a lot of times where Turbo sort of populated in and out of my space, but I'd always followed the company, and certainly appreciated what had happened with the Pink Floyd tour and the big concert in Germany for the wall coming down and that. And it was incredible product, right? So the uh, the opportunity came up, and I just said, you know what, it's something I want to do, and that's the beautiful part about retirement, right?
Yeah.
You can pick
Yeah.
and choose what you want to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there was a day 25 years ago when it didn't matter what I maybe chose to do, but I had to go to work.
Yeah.
But now my passion allows me to be selective, and I enjoyed spending a couple of days with them last month at the factory and eating some good
Where
food.
are
And
they in England?
um, my God, you're going to ask me that, aren't you? Dork, Dorsham? Oh,
Yeah. One of
don't
those.
even,
One of
yeah,
those.
I mean, I could go to Google and
There's a
look it up.
castle attached to it or something. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
function1.com is where I find them.
You know,
Sorry,
when
that
you
was a
told me
plug.
this, when you told me this yesterday, I love it because, not only do I look back at your career and think, wow, this guy really has been with some iconic European brands. But Void was such an off the beaten path, different, unusual, creative brand for me. Looking at their boxes and they're all weird shapes and stuff. You could talk for days about their SPLs or their, whatever, this or that. But I'm just saying, when you look at the speakers and stuff, like they did things different. And if I was to think who else does things different, I'd think Turbo Sound and Function One. And, I love it. I think it's the perfect next step in your career. It makes so
Well,
much sense.
for me, it was, when I left Martin again, and the opportunity came up with Function One. I gotta confess, I had some deep reservations when I was flying to England, thinking if I would join Void. Um, there was a couple of real strong draws for me. There was a colleague who I have worked with most of my career, which his name is David Bissett Powell. And David used to be, well, David was with Tannoy, and then ultimately David was managing director at Martin Audio. So I've had a long tenure with David, and
Oh, wow.
David's long retired now, but he does a lot of consultancies for different companies, and at that time he was consulting for Void a bit, and that's how I heard about it. But it it was a boutiquey line. It had a lot of unique opportunities, and it's visually it's not for everybody. But for me, the one appeal that I did enjoy was it wasn't a traditional black box, and the Martin era of time, while we were doing a lot of commercial work and a lot of commercial business, a lot of installs, churches, and entertainment spaces, dining, restaurants. The big bulk of Martin Audio was large format touring with MLA and that technology, and still some fantastic technology in that product. But that said, this was a big deviation off the normal curve, right? So for me, it allowed me to really leave the past in the past and go down a new path. Now, in the case of Function One, there's a couple of keen draws. Obviously, first is Tony and Ann, right? And um, Ann has been with Tony. They've been married now. Actually, they're married 1 year longer than. No, actually, my wife and I are married 10 years longer than them, I think. Anyway, forgetting all that, they've been together for a long time, and
Yeah.
the lure to work with another really iconic loudspeaker designer. And listen, there's not a lot of them in the club when you think about it. We got some really famous Americans in John and Kenton, and a few people, James Lansing, maybe. There's a few people in that curve of humans.
Yeah.
But when you think about the legacy of a fellow like Tony Andrews, and he's been building boxes since the '60s. And what I love about it, I think the biggest thing, and I'm learning more about the company and that, but the passion that I'm interested in here is Tony's passion to do it the most, just it's to just not utilizing some of the DSP technology that's available today, but rather building a stronger mousetrap. You know,
Yeah.
I
I like that.
I I gave a lecture, well, not a lecture. I don't want to say a lecture because I'm not a professor, but I was invited to give a chat to students at an AES society meeting many years ago, like a long time ago. We could talk about the educational aspect and my passion there, but I made this bold statement and I thought about it afterwards. But us Canadians, we just let it out.
We do.
whether it's
Occasionally we put our foot in our mouth a little bit.
sometimes
Eh?
both, because we're
Yeah.
very flexible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Anyway,
That's true.
I said to the
Or we have
class,
small feet or big mouths. I don't know. One of the two.
yeah, I said to the students, I said, what I see today is that DSP is actually crack cocaine for acoustic engineers.
Yeah, it's true.
And
It's
it's
kind of like strobe lights for lighting designers.
well, it's if you fall into that trap where you utilize, and it's very powerful. Okay, this technology that we have today is light years beyond what guys dealt with in the '70s and '80s, but
Hmm.
it's it comes at a price, right? Nothing in audio is free, and to me, there's so many ways we could talk about the pros and cons of digital and audio. There's again, it's how does the technology evolve? How does it change these things? How does it make it better? But what I saw during my time in the business, what I saw was engineers creating really cool products, right?
Hmm.
But then marketing tell them, look, the NAMM show is coming up, or the LDI show is coming up, or whatever, and we need this product ready by then. And the guy's going, but I got one little glitch I'm trying to fix. One little glitch. No, you're out of time.
Yeah.
And it's the path of least resistance. And then it becomes a bean counter issue. No respect to my accounting friends in the world. But then they say, well, no, you've got 30 days that you can spend on this project. And after that, you're moving on because that's all
Yeah.
the budgeted time we've allowed for it. So
But
those
then
things
what?
stifle or impede creativity
Yeah.
and passion for that product. And Tony's not of that school. He's just a very passionate engineer about
Yeah.
everything regarding sound. And I'm
That's
excited.
cool. He's a cool guy, and it's an iconic brand. And so let me ask, because I don't know a ton about Function One. I know that whenever it comes up for sale on GearSource, there's a lot of interest in it, similar to Void. Whenever any Void product came up on GearSource, there was a lot of interest for it. Um, but primarily big club market, is
They
that like the biggest part of the market?
At the moment, I mean, they their distributor in America has been very successful in that space.
Yeah.
They're working through a company called Coherent Distribution,
Yeah.
and based in Las Vegas, and they've had tremendous success. Actually, speaking of Vegas, the new Fountain Blue Hotel and Casino there,
Yeah.
they did the Live nightclub and day spa with all Function One there. That's probably the biggest
Oh, that's
recent
cool.
project. But they, if you were to look at a top 10 list of large grossing, like the super club, we'll call them the super clubs,
Yeah.
they've done probably 6 of the 10.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's impressive.
they're at the pinnacle of that spot, right? But they have so many other venues, like even Tony's line array projects, the Vero and the VX90. That's I'm excited to play with them. Actually, my first opportunity is going to be next week in Florida. But what I'm keen to is, I don't want to say it's an old school line array, but I might say it's an old school line array for lack of a more efficient marketing term. But it's just it's very operator easy to use, full bandwidth, really about matching sensitivity, about handling transient speeds. And if you go back and listen to Tony's podcast, he does touch a little bit, and in a dialogue I had with him, transient speeds mean a lot and to audio. And the transient speed, the movement of the cone, how fast it reacts. And again, it's our ears. It's that little bit of space between where our ears touch and how perfect our ears are.
Yeah.
I mean, our ears are number one defense, right? It's more important than our eyesight for protecting us as human beings. I think it's the
Says
most.
the audio guy.
It is. It is, honestly. And here's my argument to that. You're laying in your bed. You're in Florida, right? There's some damn little bug that's flown into your bedroom. Your eyes are shut, yet you know to the millimeter where that bug is. But
That's true.
if you opened
Yeah.
your eyes, you couldn't see him.
Yeah.
But you know where he is, so you're going to kill him because you want to go to sleep. But that's time arrival differences. That's time and space and transient speed. There's all these factors that impact how we hear, and it's protectionism, right? It's how we
Yeah.
protect ourselves.
Yeah.
But no, I'm excited, and it's going to be fun. And a
So
good friend
are
of
you on the treadmill, like getting your club bod back so you can
yeah, dude,
hit the
listen,
nightclubs, because you're going to be in the mega clubs now and stuff?
if I no no listen, if I sneak into any of them, it's going to be through the back door at the cover of darkness.
That's funny. So
No,
I I mean,
I think
obviously they're bringing a guy like you in part to expand their market outside
it's
of
really
that club
yeah. I'm
focus
I'm
too, I would expect.
I'm like a well, my title is kind of like a brand development consultant. I want to just take my practical experiences of marketing, and I do have a bit of a trait now going on for British loudspeakers into America.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who like the sound of British boxes in America, right? I mean, it's not like there's any shortage of them. As a matter of fact, I'd say that the European demand in general has,
Massive.
pretty
Yeah, it's
much
a
taken
huge
over
part of the
America,
market. Yeah,
right?
huge part of
Pretty
the
much
market.
taken over American market. And but it's for me that it's the getting the brand exposure out there, talking to, just the 8,000 odd contacts in my database and touching them and to say hello. And, not to call them and say, well, hey, I got the Emperor's new clothes. That's not what it's about. It's about, hey, I got some cool products. If you're interested, call me. I'm just back playing in the sandbox a bit, and I'm looking forward to it. I might even be back at NAMM in January. There's some debate. I
Oh,
think we're going to be
wow.
out there though.
You're not going to be at
Yeah.
LDI, though.
No, unfortunately, I was talking with them 2 weeks ago, but I'm out. It's just a nanosecond too early for me, right?
You know, it's funny. I mentioned it in the in the little intro that I did that, you were the one guy who was crazy enough to rush to a lighting convention right at the tail end of COVID with an audio company.
it's Marcel. What can I tell you? I would tell any of my colleagues, competitors in the industry, guys. Let's think about this for a minute. Okay, it's a it's a lighting trade show. Yep, I get it. Um, it's in November or December. Yep, I get it. You're not really thinking of doing that trade show work then. Oh, wait a minute. It's in Vegas. Okay, wait a minute. Vegas. Let me think about this for a minute. The biggest entertainment market in North America. How can you turn down 3 or 4 days in Vegas?
I agree
Um,
with you.
it's it's a funny thing, Marcel. When I was really looking at pioneering, Tannoy and Martin Audio and Void for that matter, but any of those days, I was pulling 8 or 10 trade shows a year. And my first Infocom show, here's another one where an audio guy showing up at a video show was 98.
Yeah.
And my booth was right at the exit of the projection shootout area. And I
Yeah.
had a little background music playing, and anybody who had an ear for audio would stop by. And the thing is that at that time, you would have a lighting company or a video company that was diversifying to add audio to their portfolio of items, right? They want
You
to be a
know, Rob,
broader
you don't even
scope.
have to tell me. I mean, for me, it's genius because it's, a fellow Canadian used to always say, when they asked him, why are you so much more successful than everybody else? He said, I went because I go to where the puck isn't, you know, and Wayne Gretzky, of course.
Yep.
And that's what you're doing when you go to LDI. If everybody's going to the other show, you're going to go to LDI. And how many lighting companies don't carry audio these days? Most companies are
Uh,
audio video lighting at this
yeah.
point, like more
It's
than not.
and
So,
to put a plug in for Kelly and the team at LDI, they're so appreciative for the support. They're so genuine. They're working
yeah,
their butts off for the industry, right? They
yeah,
are passionately working for the industry, and you can't say that about all of them, right?
no,
You can't say that about all those shows. And you know what? If we're going to be complimentary, we should and will throw out a compliment to NAM. I will say that NAM, over the last years has really tried to envelop the pro audio community with the addition of that new hall and really
yeah,
allowing the pro audio community to get together in that space. It's tremendous. It's made the
yeah.
show, a much
When
more
did they
rounded
start
show
doing
for
that?
our
Because I,
community.
I don't, I haven't been at NAM in, I don't know, three,
Oh,
4, 5 years. I don't know, a
it's
while.
got to be. No, it's got to be 6 or 7 years. I'd have to look up when they did the modification.
Yeah.
A funny story about NAM. I'm going to do this anyway. I don't care. It's a story. Um, so NAM, maybe 98, 99, the Anaheim Convention Center went through a reface, right? They rebuilt that other end down by the Marriott and the Hilton.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, guys, we're under construction. We're closing. You can't have NAM here. So NAM took us to downtown Los Angeles,
Oh, it was a
the home
nightmare.
of, the home of Rodney King or whatever happened downtown
Yeah.
LA. And
Yeah.
Ann calls me up and says, "Where's your application to exhibit?" I said, "I'm not going downtown LA." They said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Guys, listen. My cousin is in the recording studio business, in the music business. He lives in Hollywood, and he won't even go to downtown LA. Right? Like, what
Yeah.
do you mean? I'm not coming there. That's not going to draw anybody, right?" And that
Yeah.
LA at that time was getting a really bad rap from all of the things that went on, like Rodney King and whatever, right?
Yeah.
By the way, though, and I did end up getting back to NAM, and I said, "Okay, I'm ready to come back when they open a convention center up." And they said, "Well, we're going to put you in Hall E, right?
Oh, downstairs.
Hall E's in the basement, right?"
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I don't know how to speak any other language than English, and I'm barely good at that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to Hall E. I said, "Guys, I will hurt my brand more by being in the basement than I will be if I'm not at the show." So
They did that to the lighting companies. Like, we really want you here. And Martin, when I was with Martin, we were supporting NAM in like the early 90s, like 92,
mhm.
93, something like that. And so, they come out with this new Hall E and, oh, yeah, we're really going after lighting. We're really going to support you guys. We've even given you your own new hall. And it's in the basement and nobody goes down there. I mean, it was shit. It
It's
was
the
total
escalator to
shit.
HE double hockey stick, right? It's like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, listen, I
total
just said,
shit.
so I gotta throw out I gotta throw out something here. A thank you to Tim Chapman. Now, Tim used to be marketing director at Meyer Sound, and Meyer never exhibited at NAM either.
Yeah,
But what Tim did was Tim would meet everybody at the Marriott Hall P, right?
yeah,
Now, Hall P at the Marriott is the pool,
yeah.
right? So
Okay.
I said, this is way better, right? So Rob Lingfield and I, bless him from Martin, we would go to the Marriott Hall P and we would have all the meetings in the world there.
That's
Reps would come
hilarious.
and meet you there. You could buy them some food. The magazines would all meet you there. You could buy them a drink. And it was way cheaper than the drage for NAM.
That's
You
so
know,
funny. That's
and
awesome.
it really worked because it really wasn't a pro audio show, right? It was really an MI show and a fantastic MI show.
But
But
the trade shows hate when you do that shit. Like, I don't know if you remember the one time where Miak in Vancouver, I think it was either Roland or Yamaha, like booked a yacht or a cruise ship and brought the cruise ship in right next to the convention center
it
there
took everybody out.
and took people out. And I mean, it was bad. Like, there was a massive fight between them and Miak for like a couple years over that thing. And then they eventually kissed and made up and they came back inside the show. But hey, you know what? Whenever anybody does stuff like that, like says we're boycotting the show or whatever, I understand because, as you know, it's very expensive to do these
Yeah,
shows.
these shows
Like,
cost a lot of money. They do,
people
and
come and they say, why don't you do this? Why don't you have this? Why, like some of these companies at LDI, for example, are spending $1 million to be at one trade show. Like, that's
easy.
just insane.
And
A couple 100,000 in drayage, by the way,
yeah, that's the
just to
thing.
carry your shit from the back door to your booth. A couple $100,000. It's
That's
insane.
that's the tragedy. I mean, listen, I know that for all the shows of any large scale where I had a demo room going on, the drayage cost was more money than the convention cost, than the cost of the booth in the demo room.
Crazy. It shouldn't
And
be that way.
it's just a case of, I don't even want to say it out loud, but it's a bit of a ripoff. And
Yeah.
at least let's just say this. Let's say it's a perceived ripoff, right? Because you're only 100 feet from the dock. So,
Yeah.
and
It's
and
crazy.
it's a forklift.
I've
Right?
I've been
So
in so many of those fights. It was funny in the early days at Martin. I'm this dumb Canadian who moves to Florida and goes to work for this company. And at the time, our head of operations was this crazy, like Israeli. I don't know what his real background was, but his name was Michael Yehezkiel, and he was, a very militant type. And I remember when we went to a show in Chicago, I can't remember, I don't think it was LDI, but it was a show in Chicago. And, the union came to him and said, you can't touch that equipment. We're going to have to put it up for you. And he goes, fuck you,
uh-oh.
get out of my booth.
Uh-oh.
And they said, no, that's
Uh-oh.
not how this is going to go. I mean, the guy fought so hard with the union in Chicago, and to a point where I was afraid we were going to have to go fish him out of the river, at some
Did
point. And
you know what? Was that like in the late 80s?
it was in the 90s. It was
90s? So
probably 93, 94, if I were to guess.
you know what? I wouldn't surprise. It almost sounds like one of the last shows for NAM being in Chicago,
Might have been. Yeah,
right?
might have
Because
been.
you
I don't
remember it.
remember what show it was. I just remember like him literally
Yeah,
screaming at these union guys, like union bosses.
yeah.
These are big guys in the union. And, in Chicago, that's not always, the straightest business, I guess, especially
Lake
back
Michigan's
then.
quite deep.
Exactly. Yeah. And full of guys like him who argue with the union, So, yeah. But, but yeah, I mean, congratulations first on the new gig. I love it. I think it's a cool brand. I look forward to seeing what you do with it, and I hope it works out tremendously well for you.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. It's a grand. It's fun. You know,
Yeah,
that's it. It's just you have to do what you like to do, and I love the sound of British speakers. And again, kudos to Tony and the passion and what he's created. You know, again, like I said, there's having the opportunity to work with all of these engineers, like a Dave Martin or Bill Webb or Jason Baird from the Martin Audio Camp, or you look at the products from Tannoy and Alex and those guys in engineering.
yeah,
Boaz Elieli with the ICT at Goodman's. That was an incredible device that he created.
yeah,
But the biggest thing for me is this, the evolution of the paper mid-range and creating the best proper horn to put that mid-band frequencies in. And, the mid-range is the most important frequency for us. It's our vocal bandwidth, right?
yeah.
You need vocal intelligibility, vocal clarity.
Well, I remember when I was playing in bands in Canada, and we were using JBL W bins, and I think we were using, I can't even remember, like 4560s for mids, and then like Altec horns or
Yep.
something way back in the day. And then all of a sudden, somebody shows up with this Martin PA, with the, I forget what it was called, folded horn or
It would
something.
have been probably was the W pin and the Phillips shave on top, the double mids, and then a horn up on
Yeah.
top of that.
Yeah, and I
Right?
mean it was small, and we kind of looked at it and went, yeah, right, okay. And the thing just sounded incredible, especially
Well,
the mid-range. Like the mids on those were unbelievable.
yeah.
And that changed everything at that point. Like
Well,
that
and
that
see, from that point on, then that's where you step into what Tony did with Turbo in making
yeah,
the PM3. And then it
yeah,
became a one box solution, right? And then, of course, we got EAW with the KF 650, right?
yeah,
Then you get, at that point now, we're moving into the 80s. You got JBL that's got the HLA box.
yeah,
And, you get, but you can look at this evolution of these sound systems over time
yeah,
and see how everybody sort of gleans a little bit of knowledge off the other person and it evolves.
yeah,
Where do I see it going? I'd like to see it become more simplistic. I'd like to see it become more musical and less processed. And
yeah,
I think of that, and I haven't been into speaking of processed audio. Um, the Sphere in
yeah.
Vegas. Um, I have no clue what they're doing in there with Hollow Point and how that really works. I've watched a few videos. I've tried to learn a little bit about the technology, but I know there has to be a lot of DSP steering in that within that
Of course.
process,
Of
right? There
course.
has to be.
Yeah.
And then I think about that and I go, well, from a live artist perspective, that DSP is going to take time, right? And it's going to create an incredible delay between what they sing and what they hear, right? There's this whole time factor, and how does that all correlate? Everybody I've heard, reviews of it from general people, right? No, I haven't talked to any quote unquote person who I would consider an expert on sound,
Yeah, I have.
but they've all enjoyed it, right? They've all enjoyed the experience and
Yeah,
thought it
the
was
average Joe
fantastic.
does. The average Joe loves it. People like you probably won't, at least not at first. It's just like a very distributed kind of sound product, right? It's very separated and very scientific, and it's not in your face like most of the bands. My feeling hasn't changed about the Sphere since before it even opened. If I was going to go see Led Zeppelin, the one band that I really, was on my bucket list and I never saw, and never will because they're gone.
Yeah,
But if I would have seen Led Zeppelin, I wouldn't want to see them in the Sphere. I'd rather see them in an arena, in a club, even in a stadium over the Sphere because it's too visual
well,
and it's,
ding, ding, ding. That's for
yeah,
me the biggest thing. I never watched MTV videos.
yeah,
My wife
yeah,
did. She loved them. I said, I don't want to watch them. I want to hear them.
I'd always rather see a live band video, like a live video, than an MTV video, like acting and stuff. I never was into the acting and the visuals so much.
I'm afraid that the visual takes away from the auditory experience.
100%, of course it does.
To me, that's what I'm referring to in saying I wasn't watching MTV videos. I mean, a live band on stage and the energy that they create together is magic, right? It's magic.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Metallica, the stadium thing in Edmonton, because I was up there last summer at my house, and the guys were like, "Hey, you got to come see it." So I went and saw it, and I was standing right next to the stage, and there were all these subs in front of me. I think they use all Meyer stuff, and it was just a row of the subs in front of me. And I mean, you felt it. Like, you really felt that sound. Like, it was like, whoa. And it wasn't insanely loud. It was just, man, it almost gave you bowel movements, the sound standing there, right? It was crazy. And I just don't see getting that out of the Sphere, Okay, so for Fish, I get it. For Grateful Dead, I get it. For bands like that, or what was that? The Kids Act, where they all wore red and stuff, red and yellow, and the Australian guys.
Oh yeah. I know.
Them. That would be so visual in there that kids would lose their minds and stuff. Maybe I don't know, Taylor Swift or something, but like, I wouldn't want to see a real rock band in there. I just wouldn't. Yeah. I just wouldn't. Like, even the Eagles to me is kind of weird, but I have friends who've gone to it and said it was the most incredible experience ever. Okay. Yeah. I saw the Eagles during their production rehearsals in LA at Sony Studios in a tiny little room. It was the front of house guy, me, 3 or 4 other roadies, the LD, and the band. And I pulled up a folding chair in front of the stage. That is seeing the Eagles. That was seeing the Eagles. And they were in shorts and T-shirts.
And they were real.
It was unreal. It's to this moment, like, I just got goosebumps again. Every time I say it, I get goosebumps, because they did Hotel California, and I sat there 6 feet in front of the stage and just watched them do it perfectly.
Okay, listen, I got to say this. I have to say this. You said it. I didn't. Hotel California, right? Album of the year, 76, 77.
Yeah.
Their song, It's Our Industry. You check in, but you never check out.
Hey, there you go. You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong.
It is.
I'm a lifer.
Been my theme song ever since. Absolutely ever since.
It's funny you say that, because when we were getting on this call, I was thinking, like, there's not that many OGs of audio out there. We I think I told you, we've got Dave from Sound Image coming and doing this Dining with Dinosaurs thing, which is going to be super fun. He's a cool guy, and
I wish I could be there. I wish I could be there, because I love Dave. Be fun. I think it's going to be just. Are you going to do any recordings or any podcasts of it?
I don't know, because it's an LDI thing. I'm putting it on, and I put the group together and all of that stuff, but it's an LDI thing. So they'll control, obviously, like, if they do a video, they'll probably charge you to see it or something. I don't know. I have no idea.
We should try and get some content. I might hide a camera
in the corner.
Try and get some content up as a podcast, because it'll be magic.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. Well, no, I'm gonna probably, most of the people that are there, the dinosaurs, I'm gonna do podcasts with after the show. Most of them I've already done podcasts with.
Yeah.
But the ones I haven't, like Roy Bickle, again, like, he's, literally the godfather of rock and roll rigging, and he's there. Jake Berry, who's one of my favorite people, big time production manager, and he's there. It's a really cool group of people, and I'm really excited about doing it. But back to this OG of audio, like, in Canada, you're one of the very early guys. You're a pioneer of being an account exec for an audio company, or a sales guy for an audio company. Like, I remember when I was working for music stores in the late 70s, I think I started. No, probably early 80s, like 81, 82, and went until like 89 or something, when I moved to Florida in 91.
Connected to Martin then.
What's that?
Is that when you connected with Martin in 91?
Yeah, 91. Yep. I came to Florida. But like I remember some of the OGs of the business, and I was in Western Canada, and I don't know if I ever met you at the time or not, but I might have. Who
I'm
knows?
sure we had to have crossed paths somewhere.
Wasn't
I mean, the
Tannoy
world's too
through like
small.
White back then or something though?
Well, there could have been. I'm trying to think of who we had as dealers and reps. White might have had some of it back then, but I'm sure. Listen, there's no doubt. I mean, we like I said, we've all checked in. We all go to the same trade shows. We just
Yeah,
get a different business card every once in a
it's
while,
true. Yeah, it's true.
right?
It's true.
It's and I mean, I had desperately tried to not change, but change is good, and
Yeah.
opportunities come up. I think. For me, it's kind of funny that I've managed to stay in Canada. I remember being requested many times to move to an American office.
Yeah.
And I just said, I can't do it, guys. My family's here. I got a support system for my wife and my children. And, I'll commute. I'll see you Monday morning and I'll fly home Thursday night. But I'm not relocating to America. It just wasn't in the cards. And that was because of trying to at least have some family responsibility.
So you're one of the OG remote workers too, then probably. Like you
Yeah.
probably were working remote way before it was ever a thing.
Well, even when we were in Kitchener, I worked from my home office a lot of days, especially when
Oh,
my
really?
kids were young. Yeah,
Huh.
and then there was a time, and then once I started traveling heavy, I very rarely went into the office. Right,
Yeah.
I would work and from my house in my den. As a matter of fact, I built my house purposely to have a separated area where I could actually just go outside, walk down the side of the house, and go to a basement office.
Oh, really?
Right, and it just said I would joke with my wife. I
Just so you
said, I hope
force yourself to get dressed every day.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's not like our good friend Kevin O'Leary who shows up with pajama bottoms on with a suit
Oh, I
on
do.
top.
I do all the time. I won't show you what I'm wearing on the bottom right now, but
I don't.
I promise you, I don't, I don't get dressed up on the bottom half most days. I will tell you that, but you
I,
never see more than the top half of me. So
I do. I do because I have a glass desk, and you never know if the camera can fall. So,
yeah, that'd be scary.
but
That'd be
through the
scary.
through the time, and like you, I started in retail hi-fi in 78, 79, and I loved it. Right, I
Like
was
Crazy
buying gear.
Crazies or something.
No, it
Remember
was
Crazy
it was
Crazies
actually called Sound Audio Symposium, and it was a boutiquey little hi-fi shop on a second floor of this old warehouse.
in
Um,
Toronto?
in actually no, in Kitchener.
Oh, wow. Hmm.
And it's the funny thing is that point had turned out then to go to it became a distribution company because the recession in the early '80s, right? It was a mess. Nobody's spending money on hi-fi. But it rolled into a distribution company at that point. Then they picked up Rockford, Fosgate. They had Thorns, had a couple other brands, and then Tannoy came into the fold, and that's where the big connection made. So we were doing distribution in Canada, which then turned into distribution in the U.S., which then took them into taking an ownership stake and ultimately owning it, and then TGI, and the rest is history. But
Yeah.
the beautiful part about starting your career at that age is just like going to a sound company. If you walk into a sound company, you're going to go out and you're going to clean some cable and you're going to learn to rock some cable. You're going to learn to lift some shit that's heavy and light. You're going to learn how to play Tetris in a truck. You're going to learn from the ground up.
Yeah.
Well, I was really fortunate in being able to learn from the ground up and getting into all those departments. When the warehouse was short of staff, we'd work in the warehouse. When people would go
Yeah.
on vacation, we'd sub. And when you get to have that learning opportunity to go through the whole business and have an understanding of the team members and what each department does, and
Yeah.
and that's why when I went into this consulting gig of mine, I created this name, Ops Plus, right? And it's just OPS Plus. I have to put a shout out to Jason's wife, Lee. She's the one who made the logo for me. Her company's in the graphic design department. Did a brilliant job, but I needed some kind of cool little thing. So
Yeah.
it was optimization, opportunities, and something else. But it was all about the O
Yeah.
because it's sort of what you do when you're a brand builder. And I like to, I don't want to say pioneer things because certainly none of the brands that I dealt with were in the pioneering stage of their life. in the American market, they may have been more so
That's
in
what
the
I was going to
pioneering
say. I
stage.
think they were. Like, I think,
Yeah,
I didn't really know anything about Void until you. I didn't really know, I remember Tannoy sort of happening. I think I was with Axe Music when Tannoy started coming
yeah.
up as a pretty big brand. And, and
Well, and when we took that over after
Function
Beatrice
One, as
Foods,
old a company as it is, it's still relatively young in the United States, in
yeah,
North America, except in clubs where,
it, it,
they
it,
know
it
about it.
but it has such a wide breadth of product and
Yeah.
more things to come.
Yeah.
And again, it's just pivoting a little bit of that and working on the branding side. And that's what I love to do the most, right? Is just
Yeah.
pressing the flesh, doing the should have been a politician, actually. Not that I could have made a difference in the world,
Well, but are you
but
going to be doing business development with them as well? Because, I mean, obviously you
I,
have every connection in the world when it comes to business development.
I will. I don't want to pee on the front end of the spear anymore. I'm more of
Yeah.
an right. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt there's a lot of help I can offer them. And it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
really it's branding and it's marketing.
May- Maybe give it
Uh,
some time before you introduce them to the devil. Give them a little bit of time before you go there. Wait, they might need to work their way into that.
I'm not I I can neither confirm or deny. I'm not gonna have that discussion on air live with the public audience.
Yeah,
Because
that's funny.
no, anyway, listen, I again I'm very fortunate, happy
Yeah.
to be
No,
alive,
it's
happy to
it's
be
it's nice to
again,
be needed and wanted.
you know what?
That's always good.
I was just going to go back and say that again. The fact that people would still consider hiring me
Yeah.
just astounds me.
It's
It
awesome.
really humbles me because, and again, I don't tell anybody, right? It just
Yeah.
sort of leaks out.
Yeah.
And Marcel, I've never made a resume in my life.
Yeah. Me
Right?
neither.
Like,
Yeah.
because I don't. I mean, look, when I left, well, I won't even know. Forget. It doesn't matter which company it was, but I had to. No, I had to Google to learn how to resign. Like,
That's
what do I need
hilarious.
to do? What do I need to do to resign? Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Well, if you just quit coming in, eventually they get the point, right?
yeah, but you know what? My conscience won't let me do that.
No, me too.
I couldn't live with myself if I didn't give it my all. And I
Yeah,
think,
me
I
too.
think you think about what do you have as a passion in life? And I go, well, I've always told my children a couple of things, and it just is sort of what I live by. And one is show up,
Yeah.
right? Job one, show up. Job two, do your best. Like
Yeah.
don't do it half baked. It's
Yeah.
so funny. My son busted my ass on this one day, right? Because my son's 33, 34. Anyway, he's in there. He's an adult now, right? Anyways, I said to him, that's okay, Ryan. We're good. Everything's all good. And he says, Dad, we're not doing it half-assed. I
Good for
said, but
him.
it's okay. It's okay. No. And you know what? He was 100% right because I was baking out on it. I was just going to let it go and be half baked.
Yeah.
And he said, no, but that's my view. And at the end of the day, you gotta be responsible to yourself, right? And
Yeah.
we'll see how the world rolls today. I hope the next generation. I've often thought about too is the communication skills today of our next generation, and as the youth comes up, there's fewer and few people who just will communicate that way. I just see too much texting and not enough
Yeah.
verbal
Well, I go
communication.
both ways on it. Like sometimes I get down on young people a little bit and some of their traits are interesting for sure, especially compared to us. Like when you get into people who are 60 now or whatever, we all learned similar ways. We had a foot up our ass if we didn't do it, we did get beaten by our parents. It was pretty regular, and sometimes
Yeah.
by our neighbors, our parents' friends, their friends. I remember one time I think I whipped it out and peed in the middle of the road. I lived in a tiny little town, and I stood there. I was 4 or 5 years old, and I stood there and peed in the middle of the road. And one of the townsmen came and, with my pants still down,
Thank you.
smacked the hell out of my ass like I was welted. And I cried for days over it because I was like, how could he do that to me? And they're like, you be good or I'll call him back over here to do it again.
Yeah.
But,
So
it's not like that anymore. It's all about people's feelings and all that stuff. And I get some of that. But at the same time, like every once in a while, some really good things happen. And it gives me great hope that we're in really good hands going forward. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see how it all turns out.
yeah, oh no, I'm not down on
We'll
young
get to
people at
watch by
all.
then.
I'm not down on young people at all. I just think the communication, I've never been I like simple text for simple things. But
Yeah.
if it needs more than one text, then you better just pick up the phone and have a phone call,
Yeah, I'm
right?
I'm guilty though. I do a lot of texting. It's because I'm a multitasker. Like while I'm sending a text conversation, I'm also in an email. I'm probably also on a phone call. I'm probably also doing something else. And I do a lot of things at the same time
That's-
generally. Like I'm a crazy productive person and I probably do more in a day than most people do in 3 days.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well,
not bragging. It's an addiction. It's a weird thing. But so yeah, I mean, I'm definitely guilty of sending a lot of texts.
I like to just, again, it's things. It's just things for me. And
Yeah,
part of it is, it's funny. I don't know. I maybe got a bit more sensitive to it when I found, I was running like 400 emails a day,
yeah,
right?
that's brutal. Ugh.
And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. I'm looking at this thread and I'm seeing, okay, there's 4 people on this, 3 are CC'd, one's actually there, but everyone else is chiming in. They're only CC'd, so it's just really an FYI for you. And now we've written 3 weeks of The Young and the Restless
Yeah.
in this email thread. And it's like, wait a minute, if we just got on a phone call for 2 minutes, we'd suss this out and be done.
Well,
Um,
even worse is when you go to a larger company. Like I remember when I left Martin and I went to work for High End for a little while. And High End at the time had about 450 people. And they had a really weird culture of copying people. And so, like, I suddenly went from like 200 emails a day to 400 a day. And the other 200 were like, just letting you know, Betsy in finance won't be in today. Her daughter is sick.
yeah,
And I'm thinking, the hell do I need to know
it,
this for? And I'm getting these over and over again. Or like something in manufacturing, we're out of a particular type of copper wire, and therefore it's causing a 2-minute delay on line 7. I'm thinking, I don't give a shit. Like, how does this change my life? So that made me a little bit nauseous. It was just like I'm doing it again now because I just parted ways with an executive in my company, and I'm doing it right now where I'm going in and going, why is this all so complicated? Like, why is everybody, they've got this sales at email group and there's so much noise. I added myself to the group just so I could see the chatter. There is so much noise. I can't even imagine how anybody sees the gold among the noise, right? It's
right.
like,
You can't function.
yeah, you're
I
not going to get a lead when it comes in. Somebody's going to say, "Hey, I want to buy a $500,000 sound system. Can you please call me right away?" You're going to miss that on the 100 other bullshit CC emails and stuff, right?
agreed. I think it was Elon Musk who said, if you don't think you need to be in the meeting, don't come,
Well, Steve Jobs was a big. He
right?
he would look around a room and he would actually call people out. He'd go, "What's your name?" She'd say, "Janice," and he'd say, "Janice, what are you doing here?" "I was invited." "Janice, do you have anything to add to this meeting? Do you have any? Do you play a role in this meeting?" "No, sir." "Okay, Janice, you can go back to your desk." And I
Yeah,
mean, he would sit there and just basically weed out the room and get rid of people because the smaller the meeting, the more productive it is usually, right?
100%. Yeah,
And
you
if you're
don't
not a
fall into meeting
contributor,
paralysis. Yeah,
yeah, if you're not a contributor, and I look at emails the same way. Unless you need me copied on this email, don't copy me on this email because I don't want to see it. Like I have too much noise already in my life. So I'm doing that right now. Like I've always believed that, creating things is easy. Making them easy is really hard. Making things simple is hard. And so, that's why the original iPhone was so good. That's why when you see technology that knocks it out of the park, it's usually because it's really simple to use.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
That's a
easy to
really good
use.
point.
Yeah.
It's the GUI, the interface has to be that easy, and
Hell
that's why
yeah.
kids get it so well.
Yeah, hell yeah. So, I know we're going to run out of time at some point today, but I really want to get into something with you if you're willing to go down this path.
I might.
Because I want your opinion on sort of the state of the audio industry today as it relates to large scale line array. And we've got a couple of companies out there who are very large, very well funded, big private equity bankers backing them and stuff. And so they're just constantly pushing for more and more sales. They're these quarterly number guys who are like, it's got to be growth. We got to have growth. We got to have growth. Growth at all costs kind of thing, right? And, I'm not going to pick on any one company, but, sometimes you'll have the J series, then the K series, then a minute later you have the L series. And it's like you're not done paying for the J series, but you're supposed to buy the K series. And then there's a new K series product. And then there's an L series. And can the industry sustain that?
Okay, this is a big rabbit hole, right? This is a really big rabbit hole, but there's a couple of points I'll make. And there's points you touched on, right? And it's the got to make a profit at all costs. We've got to beat the next quarter results. So, the mergers and acquisitions that have gone on in the last cycle of time, and that cycle is the last 10, 12 years. It's not a COVID cycle. It's a cycle, right?
Yeah.
But it puts enormous pressure on these companies. And so how do you create additional revenue, right? How do you beat that last bottom line? So
new product.
We'll first talk about the product. Yeah. So again, then that puts pressure on engineering. Guess what? That's where the engineers get the crack cocaine out and have a little toot and okay, we're done.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Well,
right?
It puts even more pressure on the customer though, because now the engineer or whatever says I got to have the L series.
Right.
And you just finished paying off the K.
Yeah. And you're, the CapEx depreciation stuff in the US was quite helpful.
Yeah.
Right. That discount was really helpful for a lot of people. And December was always a good month for me.
Yeah.
Because people could take liberties with that. But so you've got this financial burden, right? For the company, and you've got this drive to marketing to the next thing. But we'll even go back to an earlier story. We'll even take it back one step even earlier, and we'll go from a conventional one box solution, right? Just a trapezoidal shaped box. You put up a sphere, a globe, whatever, for you to define your coverage area with old school PA. So the early days of line array, right? My first deployment, and it was a company that will remain nameless and a brand that will remain nameless because I don't want to speak of brands, but 1998, a big client of mine at that time purchased a rig. It was a line array. And I'm going, wait a minute, this is not good. Like, what is this all about? So I went with him on his first show. And, they put up like 16 aside in an arena. And it was interesting. I remember talking to engineering in the factory, and I said, the box was loud. It covered really well. It could throw for days. It went up nicely. There was some magic when it spun in the air, right? They trained it up, blah, blah, blah. And, the sales pitch at that time with that PA was you could put the PA on the dance floor of the truck, right? So that was good because, again, now we're appealing to the accounting side, saving money for space, weight, whatever. But if you think about it, then I would go and watch an international artist whose name, again, will remain silent. They would be touring with Claire, and they used to have the old Claire rig.
Yeah.
And they would have 72 boxes aside in an arena, right? Full round in the arena, 72 boxes aside. Then you see them come with line arrays. Last time I was at that show, they had 74 boxes in the yard. There was no saving of boxes, right?
Because now same amount of boxes, but now you got to fly them.
Well, now we're flying all the base, and we're having ground supported base, right? So, because we're trying to get that spectral balance right, because we had that massive efficiency difference in the frequency bandwidth, because how much HF energy we could produce versus how much LF and mid energy we could produce.
Yeah.
So you've got that dynamic. But for me, I don't know where it will ultimately go because the big word today is immersive, right? The big new sales pitch is about, what Floyd did in the 90s with the Brick in the Wall tour and having the surround system.
Yeah.
And then, you know what they say? I'm going to get my bell bottoms out next week. And I used to have some platform shoes that if I still had them could be worth a lot of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like, it's everything going through a cycle. And I'm hoping the cycle is going to get to the point again where we go with an old school. Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
it
man.
happened.
Phone down.
It
Phone
happened.
down.
It
I'm
happened.
sorry.
It's all
I don't
good.
know why I did that, but anyway, my
It's all good.
apologies.
What'd you do?
It's
Throw your
because of
arms
my
around and
internet.
send it flying?
We had to do this. I'm going to say this. We had to do this interview on my phone because my internet in my office today is rubbish.
Yeah.
But no, that the immersive experience, I'm into it. I understand it. It's another effect. But in the end of the day, for me, I love that impact, that percussive impact, that energy from just a powerful PA and a
Yeah.
powerful artist,
Me
right?
too.
And the
Me
energy
too.
that they can create. And the way, it's like they write a story when they choose the songs in the order of how they run us through an evening with them, right? Um, and I think I hope that the industry will pay more focus to that than the carnival effects of some of these other things. And I don't mean to be sounding disrespectful to them, but in my mind, it's not what I would prefer to see happening. And I think it
Yeah.
may be a gimmick to just sell more boxes. It may be a gimmick to force you to buy the next greatest, Emperor's New Clothes. Does
That's
it
where it
really?
seems to be going. It's
Yeah,
just another way to sell more stuff because, like, I mean, at the end of the day, those companies have gotten quite large. And there's also competitors out there. Obviously, Meyer does pretty well still. I think Martin does okay. You got the little guys out of Western Canada, PK Sound. They're doing making a little bit of
yeah.
noise out there
There's
right now.
there's lots of there's lots of really good products.
Yeah.
Some better than others, some worse than
Yeah.
others.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the guy who's driving the car can win the race. To take that analogy, right?
Yeah.
Um,
But I know
but
that like in lighting the same sort of arms race happened like probably early 2000s when everything was getting brighter and more gobos and more this and more that pretty rapidly. Now that's all slowed down to where everything is kind of like incremental little changes, little improvements. You're not getting the leaps and bounds improvements that you get when you go from a lamp to an LED or from an LED to a way better LED or to now it's
so
all little incremental things and it's all pretty good stuff right now. But let me just finish this point quickly. So in the lighting business, we've kind of gotten back to where you can buy a light fixture today and you can use it for the next 3 years. And then you can sell it for 60%, 50% of what you paid for it today. And it's still a somewhat profitable venture. It's not the same as it was 20 years ago when you could use
right,
it for 15 years and then sell it for what you paid for it practically. But in audio, like what I'm seeing people spending $2+ million on a new speaker system, and they're using it for maybe 2 years in some cases, and they're selling it for $1 million, and then they're buying another $2+ million speaker system, and it seems like a break-even endeavor, and it's
well,
it's similar
and
in video. LED video is a problem like that right now too.
so your point regarding the lighting, let's touch there for a minute. I was going to say this. Do you think it's a case of finance controlling the engineering wing and just clipping their wings and saying you can't develop that technology or that you don't have the time or the budget to develop that?
Um,
Or is it
there
that,
is a little bit of that, and there's also a little bit of there has been an onslaught of Chinese product in the lighting world that hasn't happened yet in audio. I'm guessing at some point you're going to have speaker manufacturers, if you don't already, who are as good as many of the other guys out there, and the product becomes accepted. But in lighting, that's already happened right now. So what that does is it lowers the sort of appetite for innovation. It's like nobody wants to spend huge money on innovating when your product is being copied almost as fast as you hit the market.
Agreed, 100%. I think from what I could comment in regards to the speakers and these guys, buying new clothes, and I agree with you. It's for any sort of real system today, you're well into $2 million if you're trying to buy
Yeah.
an arena PA. It's a minimum two bills.
Yeah.
Now, from a sound company standpoint, all the sound companies that I've had the luxury of working with and partnering up with and growing brands together, their brand as well as the speaker brand I was associated with, the speakers, they were hoping to get 7 to 10 years out of them, and they were typically writing them off over 7 years because it was the mainstay. It was the backbone that helped them carry the 100, the 200, the $300,000 consoles, right? That was it's like the bike rack barricade.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of those things that's going to help pay the bills down the road.
Yeah.
And I needed to have a 10-year life cycle. So you can't be flipping your PA every 24 months. You just,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, but that's changed. Like, when you're talking about like early line array, like VDOS was around for a long time. And then I remember DVDOS came out. But
Yeah.
now those things are coming out really fast. Like they're
Right.
coming out quite quickly with new products. And yeah, I don't know. Like to me, I'm seeing more sound companies struggling or even closing their doors today than ever before in my life that I
Yeah,
can
which is
recall,
tragic.
anyways, which is
Tragic
tragic.
because behind each one of those sound companies is a passionate audiophile,
Hell
right?
yeah. Yeah.
Passionate. Like their craft is the quality, it's the passion of
Yeah,
the
they didn't
sound.
go to business school
No,
and then
no.
decide I'm going to go into the lighting business. They were passionate about audio and it turned into a business,
Yeah, if they did that, they would have retired and went to the beach.
Yeah,
Instead,
exactly. Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because
Exactly.
they did make a ton of money running a sound company, but they
But
didn't.
I mean, going back to the lighting guys, like they had to make a conscious decision to slow innovation. Basically to say, we can't come out with new fixtures every year when our customers are still just getting their bearings on the fixture we sold them last year and they're only halfway into paying off their lease on it or whatever. We can't keep hammering them with new models, even though we've got better ways of doing things than we did a
Well,
year
see,
ago. You know?
that's the thing that you got to wonder because again, to me, it's this whole immersive thing. Like, wait a minute, is that the robe we're putting over the black speaker box? Because at the end of the day, these transducers haven't really changed.
No.
The size, the shape, the components,
Yeah.
okay, adhesives have gotten better over the last, okay, fantastic, but it's still a 15-inch radiating driver, and
Yeah.
it's an 18-inch and a horn. Like,
What
so
does
it's,
stupid question? What does better adhesives do? Does it allow you to create higher SPLs or?
yeah, it basically it allows you to drive the speaker like a higher power handling. Well, the
Okay.
better adhesive deals with the heat, right? So that
Yeah.
heat in the voice coil, right? That coil is going to glow.
Okay.
And that better adhesive is going to hold the former to the cone, to the surround, and
Yeah.
keep you in place. And that's why I really don't like doing demos where it's just all about SPL. Because
Yeah.
guess what? Everybody today can make it loud. Making it
Yeah.
loud is easy. Giving it articulation and fidelity and and a decent level of tonality. That's the magic. That's the art.
Yeah.
And there is art in there, and that's where I'm hoping that we get to more of the art and the simplistic sounds of like let's all go and listen to a local symphony again.
Yeah.
Like let's go actually listen to what a real person's voice sounds like. Get
Yeah. It's funny because same thing in lighting. Like in lighting, everyone's got 8 bazillion moving lights now, and everyone's got a huge LED screen, and everyone's got all this stuff, and so everyone uses it all the time. So every concert you go see has 1,000 moving lights or whatever, and it becomes relatively boring. It becomes like where 1,000 moving lights is vanilla, and I kind of want some other flavor now, right? So I went a couple weeks ago. Mark Brickman designed the latest David Gilmour show. He's been designing Pink Floyd since the 80s. And so I went to David Gilmour in New York a couple weeks ago, and the show that he designed is so entirely different than anything I've ever seen, let alone just the last few years. And in many ways, it's way back to basics. It's not 1,000 moving lights. It's very classical looking. It's very artistic looking. And it's that back to symphony that you're talking about with
Yeah,
audio.
again,
Same
let's
thing.
understand that it's dynamics, it's breath, it's it's why do you have scary music in a scary movie? These things go hand in hand. Like, if you want to really experience what the artist is trying to tell you, you have to have the ability to really get the tone of their voice. And again, I'd love to just see the things get a little simpler.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I agree.
life moves on, and I don't want to sound like an old person because I'm only
No, me neither.
23.
Again?
Or again, yeah.
Well, going
Go
back
ahead.
to something that I brought up very quickly, you know, import products. And we can blame it on China for today, I guess. But I know in lighting, we're not just talking about China anymore. We're talking about Taiwan, Malaysia, other countries, even parts of Eastern Europe and stuff. But specifically China, I know, like the other day I discovered something. I was putting together a slide deck for something, and I wanted a generic line array image. And so I just put in images of line array. And you know how many Alibaba line array listings came up? Like literally about 100 Alibaba line array listings of no brand name line array boxes made in China that the pictures sure as hell looked pretty good.
With little Canadian slag there.
Yeah.
So these copies are knockoffs. I was saying to you, like, I really think a lot of times you'll find they're actually original links right to the manufacturer's homepage
Yeah.
from these products that knock them off. But I've yet to hear anything that really has any sort of sonic signature, and I'm not sure why that is, because they can cut a box 1,010 millimeters and get it put together, and the materials in that are quite simplistic. But there is something to be said about the voicing and the tuning of a product, and how
Yeah, but
they can
our
ultimately get that to work.
so that's how it started in lighting too. Like automated lighting, it started that way. It started where you had just really very elementary copying of speakers, really, really raw copies where they were just basically taking it apart, reverse engineering. Like they used to actually even just come to the trade show booths, and if you had a product open on your booth or whatever, they'd take a bunch of pictures of
Oh
it.
yeah,
And they would
I've heard
literally
that.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, they'd copy stuff. And but they couldn't really copy the software. They couldn't really copy the nuances of the product. And so what they started doing is hiring Western engineers. They started hiring engineers that worked for companies like Martin or High End or whoever, right? And that's when things really changed. Like that's when it just went vroom like that. So my guess is that they're going to start, if they haven't already, they're going to start hiring guys like you and bringing them over to China and housing them there for a few months at a time or whatever, and getting you to tell them how to make great speaker boxes, and they'll end
Yeah,
up
I don't foresee that happening for me, but you're right. That is what's happening. People do
like
get
you, people
poached.
like you. Yeah,
Yeah, people
yeah.
do get poached, and they migrate over into that sort of space. And I guess there's got to be some positives to it. There's got to be some negatives to it. But again, I think that, to me, uh, I, I don't know. You look at the tariff aspect of what's coming down the pipe, and I'm not sure how that will impact things. We'll see where that
It's
all
true.
levels out.
Yeah, I mean, at least it
Right.
evens up the game a little bit. But I mean, if they're, if a typical line array that we've just talked about, an arena line array system is $2 million, if they're kicking it out the door for 300,000 or something, even with a 25%, 50% tariff,
It's
you
irrelevant.
know,
Yeah, it's
it's
still
irrelevant.
irrelevant.
It's still a quarter of the cost of the full blown system. And what I'm seeing in lighting is you're starting to see companies, smaller companies, $2-3 million little lighting companies buying those brands that you see on Facebook Marketplace or you see on Amazon or on eBay or whatever, brands that I had never really even heard of. Like there's this one called Sheds or Shreds or something. I keep seeing their ads on Facebook. I've never even heard of this company, but apparently there's lots of little lighting companies out there that buy those because, they can get a moving head LED fixture that's pretty nice and that they can take out and do weddings or little trade show booths or whatever. And they're buying them for $250. So they're buying 8 for the price that they'd pay for one from Elation or something, right? So I guess that hasn't happened yet, though, in the audio business. That's what I was curious about.
No, I don't think we're seeing it certainly not on the top end, right? There's still
Yeah,
that demand on the top end to have it. But I wouldn't, and look, there's a lot of little sound providers out there too that are just doing local bar gigs on a Saturday night because, as a secondary gig even, they're not even doing it as a real gig.
yeah,
They're doing it just to get out Saturday night and get a couple free beers.
yeah,
Well, more than that. I don't want to sound bad that way, but that's all they can afford. It's all they can.
yeah,
You know what? You touch on that side of it. It's these $2.5 million PAs where the box rental price is absolute dirt. Where these
yeah.
guys are, the payback that they're getting for this investment in equipment today,
It's disgusting.
it's tragic.
Yeah,
And again, I don't know how. I mean, unless you can get that super national tour, right? That's going to take you around, 30 weeks.
yeah.
And you're going to be doing venues 10,000 and above, and you're going to be doing 4 or 5 shows a week. There's just no way to pay for it.
But even then, like your stuff gets beat to shit and you pay for maybe a quarter of it during that 20 or 30 week tour. And, now you've still only paid for a quarter of it, right? So you got to do that 4 times just to pay for it. And then what? Your profit is in selling it used for 600,000-700,000. I mean,
the only other topic there, Marcel, is this: what are the bean guys doing for depreciation?
yeah,
Like, are they depreciating it over 24 months?
yeah,
And if they are blowing it down over 24 months, it is a wash on paper. To me, it's not the smartest wash on paper.
yeah,
Because just because you didn't lose the money, the reality is you didn't make the money either.
Well,
right?
and then the other thing is like half these guys are financing it on a 4 or 5 year lease or financing note. And so, yeah, you depreciate it over 2 years, so it's worth half as much or whatever on your books, but you still owe 60% of it. Where does that make sense? How does that look good on your balance sheet? I don't know. I'm not that smart when it comes to accounting, apparently. But anyways, I was just curious about all that, like, because to me, I hate seeing it.
Yeah, well, again, like I said, the speakers were the lifeblood for outside of copper wire.
Yeah,
they were the longest trade. You want to at least get 7 good years out of a PA for sure. 10
and I don't see why you shouldn't, because the technology isn't changing enough to where, like, audiences certainly aren't going to notice if you're using a K or an L rig,
No.
So, like, are we just getting a little too high on ourselves and saying it's got to be an L rig, it's got to be an L series or whatever? And again, I'm downplaying it because I really don't even know the difference. But all I know is we sell a lot of used J series and KSL series and all that kind of stuff, and lots of L acoustic stuff, lots of all of it, So,
and see, that still comes at a price somewhere, Marcel, too, right? Because even though the manufacturer is still getting these new sales, they're not picking up the sale of the guy who's buying that used gear, and they're not building their relationship there. And that guy is just going to continue to go down that tunnel, right?
Yeah.
And okay, he might get a relationship together to buy some spares or that, but he's never gonna have the taste to pay double.
Yeah.
Right?
Or more than double.
Or more for sure.
Yeah.
But the good news is we all survived COVID. We're all back working. Everybody's in a good space there.
No, I love that. I love that. I think the industry's in a relatively good place. I think, you called it earlier, you called it a hangover. And I think there is a bit of a hangover. Like it was wild, wild west for a couple of years there, 22, 23. I think 24 was a bit of a comeback to reality year. 25, everybody's telling me tons of stadium shows again. 25 is a stadium year. And, So yeah, I mean, to me, it's still a really healthy, great business. It's just I happened to hear this morning that two different, pretty reasonable sized sound companies are closing.
Mm.
And, one of my salespeople told me that because,
They're
two
selling
different
gear.
companies kind of called us with a similar story. Hey, I need to unload a lot of gear really
Wow,
quickly.
that breaks my heart.
Yeah,
It
it's
really does.
terrible.
It does break my heart because they're so, that. Well, and again, they're struggling to get staff too, Marcel, right? Because again,
Yeah.
all the gig, the gig community. I'm just getting over that latest cold, by the way. So that's why I was trying
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get
yeah.
some
It's
water
all
into
good.
me.
It's all good.
Um, that the industry lost so many people, and they never came back. And then to see these companies shuttering, um, it makes it even more challenging because there's less choice, there's less available people out there to work, there's less gear to work, and ultimately that means there's less entertainment for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. I
Because
agree with you
it's
on
not an
that.
easy business to start. Nobody all of a sudden goes into the desert and pops up a sound company.
Well, some people do, but the thing is that the money that it takes these days, that's the other
Expensive.
thing about our industry. Like, I don't know what you think about it, but it's almost becoming impossible for the, the Dave Shadowin or the small entrepreneur enthusiast to grow a company and survive against all these big private equity backed companies. It seems to be the window is closing for that company to be able to do that. And that's
Because
kind of sad.
the buying cost is just too high.
Correct. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can't, you need millions and millions and millions of dollars to
Hmm.
just get a potential invite to the dance. Then you got to get into
Yeah.
the political side of, well, can I actually go home with the girl? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
get you can get to the dance hall if you got the right kit, but it doesn't mean you're going to get the talent and all of the politics that goes with that.
No, it's
So
so true. So true.
I'm sad. I'm so sad. I'm not going to see you at LDI this year.
No, me too. I like
It,
hanging out with you at LDI for a little
it's a
bit anyways until you
it's a
tire me
great
out.
it's a great event. It's a lot of fun, and
It
I still
is.
think they should keep it right on top of Vegas and the F1 so that it could kill two birds with one stone.
Can you imagine what hotel rooms cost though for
No, I
to
know.
to do a trade show? Hell no. Couldn't do
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
It's
it's just
already
too good.
disgusting as it is. Like I remember when I first started going to shows in Vegas, you could get a room for 40, 50 bucks a night, you could eat for practically nothing. Beer cost nothing.
Nothing.
It was like it was so easy to go to Vegas for a show and then it became a thing. And now it's like I'm staying at the Renaissance and the Renaissance is 300 bucks a night or whatever,
You've
you
got
know?
privilege if you're able to walk there. Listen, okay, confession. My first trade show was in Vegas
Yeah.
in 1984,
Yeah.
and I stayed at the Golden Nugget.
Yeah.
I got a week in Vegas, flight there and back, rental car, hotel, and it was about $420 US.
I believe
All
that.
in. All
Well,
in.
I mean,
No.
remember when you could get breakfast buffet for
Oh
$1.99?
yeah.
You
Steak
know,
and eggs. But see, the
steak and
thing is,
eggs.
it's about now everything in Vegas is a profit center,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Everything. The days of comps, the days of these things, they're all gone. And
yeah, yeah.
it's
They make
sort of,
huge money on food and booze and entertainment and stuff now, where that used to all be tossed in just to get you to gamble.
yeah, I mentioned to someone the other day, I sort of liked it when the mob ran town. It's a political statement, but they
Yeah,
certainly did everything they could to get the customer, right? They were,
it's true.
and there was
Yeah,
nothing, again, I'm not an expert on the monarch's ability to run Vegas, but the town was always exciting. It is a great convention destination in our industry in particular, right? Because there's so many things going on there.
yeah.
Um, and it's got all you need, right? It has the convention space, it has the airport, it has the hotel rooms.
Though
Listen,
for selfish reasons, I used to like when they went back and forth between Vegas and Orlando because I could jump in my car, drive up to Orlando, and go to the show. I mean, it was just that easy. Like it's a
yeah,
2 hour drive up the road for me, and you know, and they're like, I like Vegas for what it is, but especially as I get older, I don't use it for what it is anymore. Like I don't go out till 3 or 4 in the morning like I used to in Vegas. And in Orlando, there's nothing to do. So you have to go to bed early, you
Yeah,
know?
it's
So,
you can't do anything after 11 o'clock in Orlando. There's nothing to do.
well, I mean,
It's
it was
not.
a little later than that. Like we'd stay at the Peabody, and the lounge in the Peabody was always a lot of fun for LDI. That's where all
Yeah,
the
true.
LDs and all the people, the late guys like me, would sit in the lobby bar at the Peabody, and it'd go till I think 1 or something. But yeah, I'm with you. There's not a lot to do in Orlando after 11. That's for
This
sure.
don't want to date ourselves like that, but the efficiency of you can do two things now, right? You can either drink and go home at a reasonable hour and get some sleep. That's why people in their retirement time, let's say, or their older years, will start drinking at 4 in the afternoon instead of nine. Instead
Yeah,
of nine,
yeah,
because
that's true. Huh?
they want to drink until 9 and then go to bed, so that way they can
True.
get up and feel okay in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that's kind of how I do it. And the other thing in Vegas these days, and I'm giving away my secret, but I book hotels based on being able to get to the elevator without passing the bar. And
that's a good call.
because
Yeah,
when you walk by the bar, there's 20 people going, "Hey, Marcel, come have one. Just have one. Just
yeah,
one. Just one." And next thing you know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Like I used to always stay at the Hard Rock, and I used to
yeah,
live at the Circle Bar,
yeah.
and but it was a 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning night every damn night, and I
The
can't do
Hard
that
Rock was
anymore.
the Hard Rock was the bar.
Yeah, yeah, it
And it
was
really
pretty
was.
great.
I mean, so, you know, that was a full Martin and Tannoy project in Vegas for us.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the circle bar was all 12-inch coaxes and built up in the front end of the bar there, and then in the joint was a Martin F1 system,
Huh. Yeah, see, I never
F1Bs.
looked at any of that stuff. I just looked at the VL5s that were
Yeah,
above the bar.
those are sexy.
Yeah, yeah, they looked great back in the day.
But
And I don't know if you've been to the Virgin Hotel, which took over the Hard Rock, but it's not the same,
I was there.
and like
I was
a
there
lot of
three
people
weeks
go to the
ago.
bar. A lot of people
Yeah,
go to the bar. It's fun, but it's not the same. It's
no,
just not. Yeah.
it's interesting. Yeah, I was in Vegas 3 weeks ago, and I actually stayed at the property. I'll
Yeah,
tell you
I did
this.
too.
From a check-in perspective, they get a 10 out of 10.
Really?
Oh my God. Listen, if you go to any hotel on the strip, you can spend an hour in a check-in line. Doesn't matter what time
Yeah,
of day or night you check in.
totally
When
true.
I went to Virgin, I walked up to the counter, got my room key, went to my room.
I think I did the same. Yeah. I stayed there 2 years ago, not last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah, 3 weeks
And
ago. But
same thing.
I think the problem is for you and I, we experienced the Hard Rock.
Yeah.
If you never experienced the Hard Rock and you went to Virgin today, it seemed like a great hotel. Smells good,
Yeah.
looks good.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of a kind of a Scandinavian vibe interior wise.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm looking forward to seeing what the new Hard Rock looks like going on the strip where Caesars, or not Caesars,
Yeah.
sorry, what,
Yeah, they're doing a guitar hotel like the one here.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm excited to see how that property fits in and what sort of vibe they put on it there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting to see. I haven't done Resorts World yet. Like I know that's the other one where everybody sort of gathers, and I'll probably get over there next weekend for LDI. I'll probably get over there at least once. I've got a pretty crazy schedule while
I
I'm there
think
because I'm not
you'll
there long
find,
enough. But
depending on what hall LDI's in, the Found Blue's a pretty close drop for you.
oh yeah, yeah, it wasn't open a
And
couple years ago when I was there.
that's
Yeah.
that's right now, just right beside, basically right beside the new hall. Plus, put a shout out for a bagel joint right beside
I know everyone
the West
talks
Hall.
about it.
Best
Yeah,
bagels in Vegas,
yeah,
at
everyone
least from a
talks about it.
convention year standpoint. It's close proximity.
Yeah.
It's a breakfast stop every time I'm there.
Yeah, yeah, everyone talks about that. I got a rate at the Renaissance that includes breakfast, so I'm
Oh,
good.
you're good.
I'm just gonna eat breakfast, walk into the show, you know, do a dinner after, and straight back to my room.
Well,
Sneak past the bar, nobody will see
and
me.
are they done with all the renovations now to the original convention center? Do you know, is that front end finished or not?
I don't know. I literally haven't been at the convention center, I think, in 2 years. I think it's been 2 years because I skipped last year, and I don't think I've been there for
Yeah,
anything else.
see, I
So,
was out in Vegas at Infocom, right? And
yeah.
in June, and they were really tearing that front end up really hard.
Oh,
Um, and I don't know whether it's finished yet. It's probably not. They're doing some serious renovation because to go from the new hall to the old hall,
yeah.
I ended up taking the loop, the
Yeah, the
Tesla
Tesla
tunnel
loop.
deal.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you had to go through this maze and up and down areas to get past the construction because they're basically putting a new front end on the building,
Okay.
which will match the new hall much better. And again, Vegas has still got one of the best convention centers. Although I think the
Of course.
OCC in Orlando is probably still my personal favorite from a facility to get in and out. It's
Yeah.
about the best in the country.
It's pretty great, and it keeps growing too. Like it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. You know, you think the convention business would be slowing down now that so many companies are remote and stuff, but it's seems to be doing just
People,
fine.
people do business with people,
Yeah, people love to
right?
congregate
It
too.
all comes down to the people, and
Yeah,
that's the name of the game is recognizing the importance of people.
yeah. So the last thing I want to ask you about, we're coming into the big holiday season here. It's of course Thanksgiving tomorrow here in the United States. I already had Thanksgiving in Canada. Thank you very much.
Me too.
And
That's
yeah,
where I got my cheeks from.
I get to do both now, so I quite enjoy it. But do you do anything this time of year with any kind of
There's
give to something, charities? Do you support anything? Do you want to brag
there's
about anything?
definitely a couple of things that I do. Something unique I did this year, which is kind of good and bad. We
Uh-oh.
live we live on a corner of a street, right? Two houses, our house is on the corner, and we had this blue spruce tree that we planted there when we built this house in '98. Well, she's about 40 feet tall now,
Oof.
and owning the front of my yard, and owning the
Yeah.
front, like it's very big, and it's a risk. I'm afraid the old girl's going to blow down. And anyway, my son mentioned to me a couple of years back. He said, "Dad," he said, "just take that one down and plant Fat Albert there." So Fat Albert is a blue spruce, but it grows very slowly.
Okay.
Hence the name Fat Albert. He just and anyway, long story short, my neighbor a couple of years back had the city taking down one of his trees. Big blue spruce, beautiful tree,
Yeah.
right? And it was right smack down in front of his yard. Um, and I went over to the city work and they said, "How do you guys do this? Like, how did he get you, the city, to come here to take down his tree on his property?" And the lady had mentioned to me, she said, "Well, actually, this tree's going downtown to the city center. We're going to use it for the Christmas tree for the city."
Oh.
So, needless to say, I convinced my son, convinced me, I convinced my wife, we're going to change this tree out. And it's been a couple years in the making, but this year the city took it down. And it's now getting set up in the town center for the
Oh,
Christmas
it's their
holidays.
Christmas tree. Oh,
And
that's
it's going to
cool.
be the town Christmas tree. And I'm really excited for it because, the news media came and interviewed me. And I only agreed to do the interview because I don't really do interviews. I'm not that public of a guy, contrary to
Yeah.
your belief, but, I can
Yeah.
talk to
Yeah.
you.
Well, I've
But
interviewed you twice now. I don't know what you're talking about.
you're the only person. I don't,
Yeah.
Marcel, I
That's
don't really
funny.
do it. I'm
That's
not
funny.
about, I'm actually a pretty shy guy, and I know it's hard to
Yeah.
believe, and you probably
It
think I'm
is.
lying, but
Yeah.
it's true. Anyway, I should have said to the news media when she was interviewing me, I said, the real reason I did it is because it's the only way I could afford to get my Christmas tree decorated. It's now the city's going to look after it, right, downtown. Um, but no, so that's one thing we've done this year. But what I've done my whole life is the House of Friendship locally. I do food hampers,
Okay.
and I mean, my son and I one year got up to almost doing 100. I think we were at 89 food hampers,
Wow.
and I did it with my kids ever since I got them out of the car seat, basically, and it was to take my children around to let them see other people and the situations that other people live in, and to appreciate what you have and to be
So
grateful.
how's that work though? How do you get like, do they give you names of people who need help
Yeah,
and you go deliver stuff to them?
it's a big program. Um, They a lot of people are starting now. They'll start now gathering food. So all of the food donation stuff comes in, and they usually approach a local business. I mean, one year they got my uncle to give up some warehouse space where they could set up these lines and they could build these food hamper boxes, right?
Okay.
And they could take all the food in. And then starting at about the 15th of December, 9, 10 days out, there's a big push. And all the food hampers are now built up and ready, and they're in boxes. And depending on the need of the place where you're going, you might have 1, 2, or 3 boxes, and you take them in. And so I get a dolly cart. I'd like to take big apartment buildings or condos or government housing
Yeah.
complexes where
Yeah.
there's a high density of deliveries, and then I could use the cart, and we'd load up the back of my pickup truck and go out after dinner. And it found
Yeah.
nighttime was the best time to deliver them because most people are home.
You
Because during
know,
the
what
day
I
they'd be
did it one
working.
year. I actually I think I did it 2 or 3 years. I did it 2 or 3 years where there's a church not that far from here in um what do you call like what's a good name for the hood? I don't know, but in the hood, basically, there's a church in the hood, and you go there with an SUV or a truck or
Yeah,
whatever, and they'll load you up with meals. And I would take my son and a couple of his buddies, and they basically give you a section, like a segment of the area, and you just go and you knock on doors and say, "Would you like Thanksgiving dinner?" And it's
yeah.
on Thanksgiving Day. So while, my ex-wife would be cooking food with whoever, I'd be out with the kids doing this. And it was such a cool thing to do. It was
It's
so much fun to go out and hand food to people like that on Thanksgiving Day, you
it's a
know?
bit it's a good it's you know it's good to give back. It's good to
Yeah.
do something that humbles you because sometimes you get a little bit ahead of yourself. And
Yeah.
again, it's like I said about the opportunities with these people who called me. I was just genuinely taken back to think
Yeah.
that, and it's humbling. But
People are still
the food
interested.
hamper program is a good one for me. The House of Friendship um, is another one. But definitely, it's always hard for me because of the traveling commitments and that. Sometimes you lose faith in travel.
Yeah.
December's always usually pretty much a home month, and we pick a couple of days and go and do these deliveries. But it
Yeah.
has to be fast. We'd end up doing it 3 or 4 nights and then Saturday before Christmas. So it was a bit of an undertaking. It wasn't just a
Yeah.
one night thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, our record I think was either 89 or 93, and we were bad. We wanted to do 100 so bad. It was just a
Wow.
personal goal, right?
Yeah.
Because it's doing 100 deliveries is a lot. Like,
Yeah.
and I think about now an Amazon driver and wonder like how many drops is that guy doing a day,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
They do 100 by 9 a.m. Like those guys, some of them,
I
we'll
don't think
get
they
the
sleep.
we'll get the little the Ring doorbell noise on our phones or whatever sometimes at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm like, why? Like, why are those people already here? What's going on?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
hey,
you know
good
it.
on them. It's nice, especially this time of year when you're starting to do the Black Friday stuff and Christmas shopping and stuff. They must be getting crazy, but yeah. Well, Rob, I will miss you this year at LDI, and good luck with your new gig.
Thank
Uh,
you, sir. I appreciate it, and
I think it's a great fit, and I look forward to seeing what you do with those guys and the new products coming out and all that stuff.
yeah, I'm
Um,
excited to be part of the team over there. And again, it's an honor to work with someone who I've had a great vision for Tony for a long. Well, listen, he was supposed to speak at that LDI. I don't know when that was. And again, I'm so bad for time years, but I showed up and he didn't make it, but he was on video, and I was so
yeah,
disappointed because I just wanted a personal moment to chat and say hi, and
yeah,
it
he's a
didn't
cool
happen. But I
dude.
did stay for the class. It was worthwhile
Yeah,
listening to him.
yeah,
Anyway, listen, I'm envious of the dinner with the Shadong crowd and a few more old
that's gonna
geezers,
be
but
fun. Yeah, that's gonna be
a
fun.
shot a year for me.
I look forward to it. What's that? Oops, stopped again.
Someone tried calling me. I
You're
know
a
my
pain in the
technology's
ass.
been all wrong today, but don't tell anybody. Just blame Bill. Now that was I did. I don't know if you
Yeah.
heard that or not, but you have to have
Sir.
at least one shot of Jaeger for me.
Oh,
Hey,
I hate Jaeger, but I'll do it.
just
You
one.
asked me to, so I'll do it.
Actually, listen. If you want to,
Well, there's a friend of mine who I've worked with for many years and used to do our trade show booths at Martin and then at other companies as well. But he was always a big Jägermeister drinker. Chris Asen, I think people already knew who I was talking about. But
here's
I'll convince him
here's
to
a
have one
secret
with
for
me
you.
one day, middle of the day.
People tell me that this is called liquid cocaine. Now, I don't know if that's the real drinking name for it, but half a shot of Jaeger and half a shot of Goldschlager. Okay,
Fuck's
now
sake,
listen.
what are
So the
you doing to
Goldschlager
yourself,
takes
man?
the edge off the Jaeger, and it's
Yeah, that's just like cocaine takes the edge off heroin or vice versa, whichever it is. Great ideas. I heard Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue talking about that. Yeah, I took the heroin to take the edge off of the cocaine. Smart.
I'm
Smart.
running
That's
straight
sensible.
towards the cliff and I can't even see it. Listen, have a wonderful
Yeah, you're
have a
making bad
wonderful
decisions, Rob.
Thanksgiving. It's been a pleasure as always. Be well and safe. Okay.
Thanks, my
Cheers,
friend.
mate.